Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. Let's talk about the latest episode of Stargirl. It was called Summer School Chapter 8. It starts off where we see Rick's teacher apologizing for accusing him of cheating and offering him info on going to college, which his uncle dismisses rather rudely. We then see Rick go into the woods with a sack of something that we don't quite know what it is just yet. He sort of yells in frustration, and then he's approached by Solomon Grundy. We flash over to Courtney. She feels badly about Yolanda, and she feels like she's to blame for involving her in the first place, and she wants to make good. But just as she's having a conversation with Pat where she's sort of expressing these sentiments, Yolanda shows up and without knocking returns the Wildcat costume on Courtney's doorstep. We then see Beth having a conversation with Dr. Midnight, who is trapped in the Shadow Realm, and he tells her that there's another pair of goggles. We flash back over to Rick, who apparently goes into the woods and feeds Solomon Grundy. So he was carrying food for Grundy in the sack. He talks with Grundy a bit, and Grundy seems to understand him, but the CGI is really bad. I didn't think Grundy looked very good on screen. Anyway, we cut back to Courtney. She visits her staff, which she has now named Cosmo, but it still seems sick, and she's very sad about it. Back over to Beth. She's having a talk with her folks about their divorce, and they make it sound like it's her fault that they grew apart before they come right out and actually say that. And she freaks out upon seeing her food do some weird gross stuff, like maggots show up or whatever, and then she takes off. Back over to Rick. He discovers that there are some people after Solomon Grundy, some people that are hunting him, and he calls Pat for help. Beth goes looking for Courtney at her house, but she finds Eclipso in the form of the kid, and he accuses her of stealing, I guess, her goggles and stuff, costume, before he runs off with the goggles. She catches up with him and realizes that it's Eclipso. He taunts her about not having been chosen for the team the same way Courtney and Yolanda and Rick were chosen, before making a racist remark. He actually makes several. And he zaps her to another location where she runs into Starman, the original Starman, the original Wildcat, and the original Dr. Midnight, who all question her worthiness to be in the JSA. We flash back to Pat and Courtney, who are trying to help Rick find Grundy before the hunters do. And when Rick eventually finds Grundy, he's near the body of a missing kid who Rick thinks he's responsible for killing. And then he runs Grundy off, kind of yells at him, and he threatens to kill him, and he's chasing him. But when Pat and Courtney show up on the scene, they discover that the body was like a glamour. It wasn't real. It was Eclipso just showing Rick a false thing. Rick then catches up to Grundy, and he starts to fight with him against a backdrop of a 4th of July celebration against fireworks. So it was a pretty interesting narrative choice. They have this brutal fight going on, and normally where you would hear the fight and there'd be conversation and stuff, you're seeing this vicious fight take place against a celebratory background with fireworks going off. And it was pretty cool. The fireworks could also, of course, symbolize bombasticness, right? Like a beating that someone's getting, or a beating that two people are giving each other. So I thought it was really cool. Of course, Rick had the hourglass flip, so he's beating up Grundy, something fierce. Eclipso, meanwhile, continues to taunt Beth in this alternate reality before showing himself in his true form. Courtney shows up where Rick and Grundy are fighting with Pat. She tries to stop him from pummeling Grundy, but he doesn't listen, so she blasts him with the staff, and it turns out that he wasn't actually fighting Solomon Grundy. He was fighting his uncle, and he's pretty much beaten his uncle almost to death, which, of course, is not good. And this, of course, is thanks to Eclipso, who was glamoring the whole situation. At this point, Rick is so pissed off that he smashes the hourglass. We flash back over to Beth, where she realizes that Eclipso is trying to cause her to doubt herself, and she pretty much just tells him off. We then see that Grundy was looking on from the shadows during the whole fight situation between Rick and his uncle, who Rick thought was Grundy, and he says the word friend as the authorities arrive to the scene of Rick's uncle's injury. It turns out that Beth's parents' talk with her wasn't real, but also a fake Eclipso vision, which is great. Her real folks show up and reassure her that she can win over anyone who doubts her and that she's on the right path and she is worthy and all of that. So it was a really good scene. We also find out that the people who were after Grundy in the woods were also not real. So the whole thing was a big setup on behalf of Eclipso to, I guess, manipulate the JSA into doing whatever. I don't think he had a particular plan. I think he was just sowing chaos, trying to get them at each other's throats, trying to demoralize them. Clearly, that's what he was doing with Beth. He might even have been trying to turn them against Grundy if he thinks that Grundy might end up siding with them, although I don't think he thought of that. But I thought this was a good episode. It really showed off Eclipso's powers. It also showed how vile he is, like just how little humanity he has. It's like none. It's like negative humanity. I mean, just the racist remarks alone demonstrate that. Never mind the fact that he, also made Beth feel worthless in other ways. So yeah, it was just crazy. I'm hoping that the staff, because the staff is still sick, and it did get off like one shot at Rick. But Courtney had said during the episode she didn't think it would do anything more than that if they ended up having to take down Grundy while he was fighting Rick, or take down Rick while he was fighting, with Grundy. So the staff's not in good shape, and she kind of needs that. So I'm hoping that it recovers by the end of the coming episode. We still haven't seen how they're going to get Dr. Midnight out of the Shadow Realm, or if they're going to be able to. Jay Garrick is supposed to show up. I cannot wait for that. John Wesley Shipp showing up as Jay Garrick. That's going to be awesome. So anyway, this was a good episode. I'm looking forward to the next one. I will, of course, have a review of the next episode. Until then, I'm wishing you all peace and long life.